Yeah, it's like I don't want to. I don't intend to at all criticize Harry Gregson Williams' work. I do think Metal Gear Solid 2 has a phenomenal soundtrack. But Kojima's push for Hollywood everything in Metal Gear Solid
Not again.
was really stupid. I think the higher quality soundtrack of 2 was probably closer tied to the increased budget due to the success of Metal Gear Solid and the better technology and space available on the DVDs on PS2.
Is it over?
And of course, like Kojima would also push for other Hollywood elements in the later games.
Ninja is Gray Fox.
Like David Hayter voices Solid Snake through the entire series. He voices Naked Snake in Metal Gear Solid 3. Kojima was really heavily pushing for Kurt Russell to voice Naked Snake in Metal Gear Solid 3 to the point where he said that if the localization team could get Kurt Russell, they should immediately drop David Hayter.
Dr. Clark.
Yes.
And they couldn't get Kurt Russell, so David Hayter came back for it, and David Hayter reprised his role in 4, which I think he had to audition again for.
What about this soldier?
Apparently, for their test subject, they decided to.
And then, of course, with Ground Zeroes, they dropped David Hayter completely for Kiefer Sutherland.
But he was already dead.
Yes.
And that's it's like,
They fitted
why,
him with a prototype
honestly?
exoskeleton and kept him drugged for 4 years while they experimented on him like a plaything. Today's genome soldiers were born from those experiments.
And there's the whole thing that makes it even more ridiculous. It's not even about Big Boss having a different voice at that point. It's not about Naked Snake, who does become Big Boss. It's not about him having a different voice to represent him being older. Because in Japan, the same voice actor voiced Snake and Naked Snake and Big Boss throughout the entire series.
Says he died in the explosion.
I see. But even if that ninja is Gray Fox,
But then again, they also just have more respect for voice actors in Japan, it seems.
he didn't know who he was. Are you saying that
Like
he's
the
just a
whole
mindless robot? I'm not sure.
the way voice acting seems to be in the West
We'll meet again. I know it.
So you
is
fight
like
again.
there's the whole unions,
Kill him.
there's the unions and stuff.
I'd rather not.
But fairly often, if you look into it, you can hear about actors in the union who will take non-union work because they just need the money because they're not getting that much from these voice gigs. And not everybody gets to be as big as Troy Baker, who is like really in demand and is able to actually demand a sizable paycheck per role because he has that kind of presence and reputation. A lot of them, even the ones you'll really know, like say Crispin Freeman, or
Form is different than theirs.
You're the Metal Gear chief engineer.
God, I don't even really know voice actor names, to be honest with you.
You know me?
Like, who's big in the like Liam O'Brien?
So you're here to rescue me.
Sorry, but no. There's something that I've got to do first.
Oh. Well, at least you're not one of them.
Wendy Lee,
Huh. Are you hurt?
like a lot of them, Kyle Aber, Shaun
I just
Shamel, that kind of
twisted
thing.
my ankle a little bit trying to get away.
Well, if that's...
A lot of them are just really kind of, they take what they can get
I need information.
a lot of the time, and they don't get paid that well for it because the voice acting industry in the West is not
What's Metal
great.
Gear really designed?
It's one of the most interesting things to think about with 4Kids, because 4Kids has like a horrible reputation amongst fans
I already know
for a lot of reasons, with stuff like
Walking Deathmobile.
the censorship of
Nuclear.
Yu-Gi-Oh! And some of the stuff they did with Pokemon, and of course One Piece.
You telling me?
Although the interesting thing with that is they never actually wanted One Piece, they were forced to take the licensing rights for it to get the show they actually wanted to do.
From the beginning, the purpose of this exercise was to test Metal Gear's nuclear launch capability.
And while you can complain about what they did to Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, if they hadn't, chances are we never would have seen those shows as kids.
I heard it directly from your boss, Baker.
But as far as like the actually working for them goes, it turns out like pretty much every voice actor who ever worked for them
All the armament was
never had a bad thing to say because they actually paid really well.
The final assembly of the
And like I've heard that's like the main reason why after the Pokemon anime was taken away from 4Kids in the West, and I think the Pokemon company dubs it themselves now, like that was why they changed the voice cast. Or like one of the big reasons why they changed the voice cast, because they were getting higher than standard rates for the voice acting with 4Kids.
The technology was originally developed for the SDI system and later scrapped.
And like I say, like you can complain all you want about 4Kids and censorship and stuff, but chances are we wouldn't have seen a lot of these animes as kids if they hadn't have broadcast them at all.
You're not forgetting something.
It's entirely possible Pokemon as an anime would have never come out. And let's be fair, Pokemon as a phenomenon in the West was very much helped by the anime from the start. I'd have to check the specific dates, but I think Pokemon, the anime, came out maybe a little bit before the games did in the West, or certainly around the same time.
Could it be?
And Pokemon was a very popular cartoon.
Rivermore National Labs was
And Yu-Gi-Oh, of course, like Yu-Gi-Oh was pretty popular, and you can bet the card game would not be anywhere near as popular in the world if 4Kids hadn't have taken the series. Because who else would have done that? Who else would have done it? 4Kids was like the biggest anime dub company at the time.
These are some of the supercomputers. If you link these, you can test everything in a virtual environment.
But yeah, voice actors.
It's all just theoretical.
So we defeated the Cyborg Ninja. The revelation is that the Cyborg Ninja is actually Grey Fox, our old friend. That is background information from Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake. In Metal Gear, Grey Fox was a prisoner in Outer Heaven, which Snake infiltrated to rescue him.
It's all my fault.
And then in Metal Gear 2, Grey Fox was an enemy who had defected to the enemy side and piloted the Metal Gear in that game, and then after destroying Metal Gear, Snake ends up fighting Grey Fox barehanded in a minefield.
He was born on August 6th, 1945.
The day of the Hiroshima bomb. God's got a sense of humor, all right.
3 generations of Emmerich men. We must have the curse of nuclear weapons written into our DNA. I used to think that I could use science to help mankind, but the one that wound up getting used was me.
So there's actually a bunch of interesting stuff around Otcon's lab.
Just in the movies.
We will be showing off. We will be showing off some of it.
Where is Metal Gear? Where on this base are they keeping it?
Although one thing I do like about this is the state of the lab depends on the fight with the ninja. Because the ninja can damage most of the lab with his attacks, but whether he will depends on where his attacks go, whether he gets to land some of his attacks. Like, it's possible for all the glass around the supercomputers to be destroyed, it's possible for the supercomputers themselves to be destroyed, more chairs to be knocked over, the standard computers to be destroyed, and that all depends on how the fight ends up playing out.
Must be ready to launch.
And the state of the lab is carried over through the whole cutscene and the aftermath of the cutscene, which I think is really cool, especially for the time. It's like, if there's one thing you can say about the Metal Gear Solid series as a series,
on that leg of yours, just slow me down.
Whether you like the story or not, whether you agree with anything that's going on, whether you think the cutscenes are way too much, gameplay-wise, the series has always been really solid and very impressive in a lot of ways, and progressed steadily throughout the series.
When the coast is clear, I'll contact you by codec.
How am I supposed
And it's always been a fantastic looking series. Like, for the PS1, this is really good.
So what then?
There's a lot of detail in the character models, and the animations are pretty good.
Don't you?
Of course I do.
The environments are well designed. They're very square, but the entire situation is designed so there's a reason for them to be square.
Foxhound was gonna use them.
We'll end up in some caves later, though, and they're not
Bad
square.
leg and all.
So that's
I
reasonable.
want Meryl to watch after you too.
And then there's the bits where we're outside where there's the snowbanks and stuff like that.
Meryl, the engineer's okay.
That's a relief.
I want you to look after him. Where are you now?
So that's all pretty reasonable. And it's all really impressive stuff, from, like, a game design point.
Meryl, what happened?
Something's wrong.
Did you hear something? Wasn't that some kind of music?
What did she look like?
She was wearing the same green uniform as the terrorists.
So remember when I said you need to pay close attention to that soldier's butt?
A disguise?
She had such a cute way of walking. She kind of wiggles her behind.
You were really looking.
Well, she's got a very cute behind.
Way of walking, huh?
If she's disguised as the enemy, you'll have to contact her when she's alone, huh? There's only one place where we can be sure she's by herself.
Where's that?
Don't be so dense.
Don't try throwing riddles at me, Connor. I'll punch you in the face.
Here, use this security card. It's security level 4.
You're not in pain, are you?
Huh?
You feel okay? Nothing bothering you?
What's wrong? Getting all friendly all of a sudden.
No, nothing. I'm glad you're okay.
You're strange.
Two bros chilling in a
Nervous.
laboratory,
Everyone else I saved suddenly dies.
3 feet apart because they're not gay.
Forget it, Doctor.
Call me Otacon.
Otacon.
No.
It stands for Otaku Convention. And Otaku's a guy like me who likes Japanimation. Japan was the first
So
country
all
to
of the
successfully
anime cutscenes represented here
still the best in the field.
are actually cutscenes from Police Notes, which was, I think,
They did.
Hideo Kojima's previous game,
I didn't get into science.
which is a game I do want to get around to playing sometime. I've heard really good things about it.
I became a scientist
Described as like
because I wanted to make
lethal
robots
weapon
like the
in
ones
space.
Japanese animes.
It was not released outside Japan, although there is a full fan translation you can get of it, which adds English subtitles. It's a game I do want to get around to playing sometime.
Responsibility. Science has always thrived on war. Greatest weapons.
So between Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake and Metal Gear Solid, Kojima did 2 games as far as I'm aware, Police Notes, and the one before that was Snatcher,
Was information.
which I've heard really good things about. It was released in English on one format, because it was released in English in several. It was released on several systems. It was released in English on one system. That was the Sega CD, and it's supposed to be like one of the best, but also rarest and hardest to get Sega CD games.
141.12. See you later.
So let's take a look at a few things before we leave the lab. Actually, while I remember, let me just call out Con, because that way it'll save his codec frequency to the memory.
You still haven't found Meryl? Snake, the warhead storage building that you're in has 1 floor above ground and 2 floors below ground. Why don't you search there too?
Because like we've got the memory here. Everybody who you've called and has called you is here. In Metal Gear Solid 2 and onwards, once you get a new codec number, it would just automatically be saved. So this is a Police Notes poster. This is a Police Notes poster. And over here, we actually have a PlayStation. Like, that's supposed to be a PlayStation and a controller. One of the old controllers as well, the pre-analog stick ones. In the GameCube version, that's actually replaced by a GameCube and a Wavebird controller, which is a wireless controller, and the screen at the side is if it hasn't been destroyed, Ninja Fighter, the screen at the side is displaying the GameCube menu. So that's really neat. Definitely, I'll end up showing that off when we get to Twin Snakes. Yeah, I think the lab's in fairly good condition considering. And this guy didn't make it. He just bled out there. That's gotta have been horrible. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna save it here and call it a session for now. So we're a little under 2 hours. Every time you call Mei Ling to save, she will give you a proverb.
Only a life lived for others is worth living. That's why I entered MIT instead of Princeton or Vassar like my
I think after this one, all of her proverbs will relate to gameplay ideas.
make things for people.
Like, don't get greedy and stuff. Don't chase after an item if it's going to get you caught and stuff like that.
For Dr. Emmerich too. But he was used like a tool. Used to make a horrible killing machine.
Oh, that's it. It's not the first time. It's if you call her after the Cyborg Ninja fight, because it relates to that point in the story. And so, before we go for this session, I just want to take another look at the save menu. You notice the two different colours. Because this is a new game, this is a game where I've previously gotten both of the endings.
Good luck, Snake.
Right. So, I'm going to call it a session here, and I will catch you guys next time.